And this is the root challenge. And what's amazing about this is when you deal, as the Rebbe says, continues, the only thing that you have left is the fear of punishment. And even that has been reduced to a minimum. Now, this is a letter the Rebbe writes 30 years ago. At this time, when the Rebbe is writing this letter, I'm still a child in school, and when it snows outside, and we had one of the kids comes and tells us that you have 15 minutes extra recess, so because Rebbe says we can stay outside for 15 extra minutes, which was total baloney, when we come back into class, our principal's waiting for us, and he has what usually is hanging in his office, the Eitz Hadas, and he's holding in his hand, and each of us line up in a line, and he tells us to bend over, my boy, I'm going to knock that Yetzer Hara out of you, and that's what would happen. We got the cane. So this is 30 years ago when the Rebbe says that even the fear of punishment has now, because of a recent breakdown in law enforcement, even that has become a minimum. And if this is 30 years ago, now we look back and we see what an incredible vision the Rebbe really had. Because 30 years ago, this was really something that we couldn't relate to, as the root challenge being the lack of Kabbalah, and even the fear of punishment not really being anything there. But today, this is not something that we need to get anyone to buy into. It's really something that we can all relate to. Now, the Rebbe goes further and identifies that an American child who is bent on mischief even feels he can outsmart the cops and the judge. So there's very little to fear. And here comes incredible terminology that the Rebbe uses. I thought long and hard. This wasn't just something that the Rebbe identified as a root challenge, but he actually thought long and hard for a solution. How do you get an American child used to this idea of accepting upon himself to listen to a higher authority? And as amazing as that terminology is, the Rebbe continues, especially in a situation where parents, not wishing to be bothered by their children, all too often they've even given up their authority, and basically they give over their responsibilities of bringing up their children to other people to take care of, and not necessarily taking their responsibility on themselves and taking that authority. So that makes the challenge even bigger. I don't know if anyone can relate to that one. And then the Rebbe says, so when it comes to dealing with an issue, as any issue, it could be physical, mental, or spiritual issue, you've got to get to the root of the problem. In other words, you have a leak in your house, you can go and block up the hole where the water's coming from, unless you get to the bottom of it. I remember when we were in school, we had you can imagine most schools are like this, but our school, the budget was very, very low, and there really wasn't much money for maintenance. So whenever there was a problem, they had these sheets of plywood that were like they covered up the walls, and they just, instead of dealing with the walls, we just covered up another sheet on top, and that's how they would deal with it. And then one day, one of the kids put their hand against the wall, and they felt like the wall was cracking. And of course, they had to call in a company and the company said it's a miracle that the building hasn't fallen down, but within the next 2 weeks, there's no question that it's going to crumble. And they had to then go and rebuild the whole side of the building, because they had never dealt with the real problems. They just covered it up. So the Rebbe says, if you want to deal with a problem, you got to get to the root of the problem. That's the only way you're going to deal with the issues properly. And of course, if there's an acute emergencies, then you deal with the symptoms. But otherwise, you got to deal with the root of the problem. And the Rebbe said, I came to the conclusion, this to me is the most mind-boggling part of the letter, that there is no other way. In other words, this is not the best idea that you can do. This is not a good suggestion, but there's no other way of dealing with this problem. The only way of dealing with it is creating a system of discipline. You have to create a system of discipline. If it's a child growing up where there is no system of discipline, it's today I'll decide to do this and tomorrow I can decide to do that, you're never going to get there. So this is the answer in one sentence. And you need to create a system of discipline, but there's a catch. And this is the incredible catch that the Rebbe has added. That for this system of discipline to work, you can't impose it on the child. It has to be done without coercion. You can't force this on the child. You have to have a system of discipline, but it needs to be one that the child will accept upon themselves. And this is what we're trying to accomplish. Where is the model that you have for this? Where is there a model of a situation where you have people who volunteer to give up their lives into a rigorous system of discipline, but they volunteer to join? Anybody? The army? The army is exactly that. The army is, we're not talking about soldiers who are forced to join, because even in Hashem's army, you join when you're 20 to 60. Children are not forced to join in Hashem's army. The Rebbe made Tzivos Hashem as asking children to volunteer to join. Very, very interesting point. When Hashem, which we'll get back to in a second, but the point is, you needs to be a system of discipline. And you know, if you look at an army, you see what a rigorous system of discipline they have, but it's something that the child has volunteered to join. They've accepted this upon themselves. And these are two things which I think are very lacking. Both a solid system of discipline, and for sure because people find it very hard because it usually backfires. And definitely not a system of discipline that the child actually accepted upon themselves. They bought into it. And what's very interesting, if you look into Perek Mem Aleph in Tanya, where the Alter Rebbe describes Kabbalah El, the mashal that he gives for this is Kahai Torah, like an ox, the Yov and El, that you take a yoke and you put it onto the animal. And then what happens is, he says, so to also Barnash, Mekablim El, so to also a person accepts upon himself a yoke. And look at the difference in the Lashon. When it comes to an animal, you put a yoke onto it. When it comes to a person, the person accepts upon themselves the yoke. I don't know about anyone in the audience, but I know when I was brought up, a lot of what I was taught was, this is your yoke, this is what you have to do, no one's asking you, do what you're told. That was the way that I was brought up. And the challenge with that is, it's a taka level of an Evet Kanani, it's taka Kabbalah Sel, but it's not an Evet Ivri. It's an Eved that, because Avda Befkeir Nechali, a regular Eved just wants to have a good time and wants to enjoy himself. They don't want the yoke on themselves. So even if you impose it on them and you manage for them to keep it on, you've imposed it on them and they don't actually want it, so that's not really theirs. And what the Rebbe wants over here is Kabbalah Sel. Kabbalah means accepting. He wants the children to buy into it. But buy into what? A rigorous system of discipline. So there's a mixture over here between a rigorous system of discipline that we want to get the kids used to and serious about, but at the same time, not impose on them something they accept upon themselves. So that's the first thing about the letter, which the Rebbe gives us an insight of his vision, that we're dealing over here with the root challenge of today's youth, and a solution that Rebbe thought long and hard about and came to the conclusion there's no other way. So that's the first part for today. The next part I want to move on to is the first rally. Because as much as this is a letter that Rebbe explained to somebody what his vision and mission was, in the first rally is where he actually told all of us what the Tzivos Hashem was all about. And the first thing he starts off establishing is when Tzivos Hashem was founded. Everyone knows when Tzivos Hashem started, correct? Sorry? Don't assume. We all know Chumash, Parshas Bay, right? So, Be'etzem Hayom Hazeh says in Chumash, just now, very recently, we learned it, Be'etzem Hayom Hazeh, Yatzu Tzivos Hashem Me'eretz Mitzrayim. That's what the Rebbe starts off identifying to us. We should have a sense of clarity and understanding. This is not something new that I'm creating. It's important to realize this is biblically founded. And this is Miyusid in the Torah. Torah tells us that when the Yidden went out of Mitzrayim, they became Tzivos Hashem. That's the first thing. Then the Rebbe says it's important to understand what is the mission of Tzivos Hashem. What is the mission? We understand that one of the goals we want to achieve over here is that children should have a system of discipline and Kabbalah El. But what is the mission of the army? And the Rebbe actually says something which I found mind-boggling, because sometimes we know all of these things, but if you want to explain something which we call philosophical to little kids, you can't start giving them a whole drasha. So the Rebbe actually tells them the mission is 2 psukim. And actually by the second rally, he got them to repeat those 2 psukim. He said it again, and he got them to repeat these 2 psukim. And the mission of Tzivos Hashem is Bereshis bara Elikim eis hashamayim ve'eis haaretz. The mission of Tzivos Hashem is that you will be a shining example to the world that the Hashem created the heavens and earth, and Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, that Hashem is the one and only Balabas in the world. Your mission is to be a shining example to the world that they can look at you and they can see that Hashem's in charge of the world, because you only listen to Hashem. That's the mission of Tzivos Hashem. And ultimately, yes, we can translate it in other words, like the Rebbe says, which is Mashiach. But what is Mashiach? The Rebbe tells the children, Yakiru v'yedu kol yesh v'sevel, that the whole world will recognize that Hashem's in charge. Now this sounds like things that the children all know about. But what we spoke about before, one of the big challenges that we have with children is that they know about it. There's the v'yodaita hayoim, they know, but there isn't the v'hasheveisa el vavecha, it's not, they're missing the connect, how that really connects with their life. And that's what the challenge is. Yeah, I know Bereshis bara. I learned that when I was in kindergarten. I know Shema Yisrael. I've been saying it for 10 years. But how does that connect with my life? And for that we need to understand, the Rebbe asked a very practical question. How do we know, now we know the mission, next question is, how do we know how the army should work? And the Rebbe answers one amazing answer. And this answer actually is, you can use it over and over again in any circumstance. The Rebbe says, you take a look at a regular army, and that army is your model. That is the way you know how Tzivos Hashem should function. And it's not Pshat, the Rebbe explains, that you look at a regular army, and then that army is something that we're looking up to learn how Hashem's army should be. That they are the big thing, and we're looking up to them. It's just the opposite. The Rebbe explains everything that exists in this physical world is actually a mirror of what exists in the Ruchnius. The reason why there's divisions in a regular army is because there's divisions in Hashem's army. The reason why there's ammunition in a regular army is because there's an ammunition in Hashem's army. But we can't see how things are in Hashem's army, so we look at a regular army, the good things in a regular army, and we can understand how this is a lesson for us. So now one of the core things the Rebbe says, this connects now with a letter. The Rebbe says, what's the foundation of a regular army? Kabbalah. The foundation of a regular army is, there's no such thing. First of all, the Rebbe says, the first thing before he gets to the foundation, the Rebbe says, the first thing about an army is, you know that to be in an army, in the Rebbe's Lashon is aglik l'chazach and afrei l'chazach. It's exciting, it's thrilling to be in a regular army. It's really cool. But in an army, it's not a game. The Rebbe's words is nishkin shpilachol. This is not a game. In other words, people can look at Tzivos Hashem like a program, like a motivational system. The Rebbe says, no, this is not a game, this is not a program. It's important to understand that you really belong to an army, to Hashem's army. That's the first thing. The second thing is, besides the approach, the foundation of the army, the Rebbe says, is Kabbalah. And in Kabbalah, he underlines 3 factors of relating to Kabbalah. And when we're going to look back in a moment of those 3 factors, you're going to see, which is mind-boggling, how these are one of the core challenges that we deal with today's kids. And how it connects with the ideas that the Rebbe was speaking about in the letter. How we can practically understand this. And literally, since this was brought into my house, it really changes the dynamics of the house. First thing is, Nasa Kaidam Lanishma. It's the first rule. You're talking about a rigorous system of discipline. These are the basic rules. 3 basic rules. Number 1, Nasa Kaidam Lanishma. There's no such thing as a soldier questioning a command before they've completed their command. Afterwards, yes. It didn't say Nasa and no Nishma, but it's Nasa Kaidam Lanishma. Never question a command before you've done. Soldiers don't ask why before they've done their command. It has to be a very, very fundamental rule. No such thing as asking why before. You can encourage them to ask why afterwards. And if you decide to tell them, great. But before you do the command, no such thing. Number 2, and the Rebbe brings out how the Yidden, before they accepted the Torah, first they said Nasa and then Nishma. Then the Rebbe says the next thing of a soldier is no such thing as turning around and saying, I'm not interested. Can't be bothered. Not in the mood. Can't do that. Imagine a soldier standing on base. He's protecting the enemy, for the enemy not to come through his particular post. And that day he decides, I'm not interested, I'm not in the mood. You moving out of your way, it's not meaning that if you stay there, then you're going to get all the benefits in the army because of what you did. No. It's not about the fact that if you moved out of the way, they're going to send you to prison because you didn't do your job. That's not what it's about. What it's about is that if you move out of the way, you're putting the whole army in danger, ultimately the whole country in danger. And the Rebbe goes to the extent of saying something which, the Rebbe speaks to the children, he's so radical with them, it's unbelievable. But he goes to the point of saying to the children that you put something in your mouth that's not kosher, you're not putting yourself in danger. You're putting the entire Jewish nation in danger. Talking about responsibility and giving the children a sense of responsibility, he puts the whole Jewish world, the whole nation on their head. That's number 2. And number 3, the next thing is, which again, these things 30 years ago, people didn't connect with like they do today, but now this is mind-boggling. The third thing is, there's no such thing as saying, I know better. Because there wasn't a generation gap 30 years ago. You didn't have children feeling like they know so much better than their parents. I mean, somewhat, we knew a little bit better than our parents 30 years ago. But not the way it is today. Because today, the children they know more about your phone than you do. And today, the children, so the Rebbe says, even in an army, even if you're a general, there's no such thing as turning around and saying, I know better than the commander-in-chief. If you get a command and it says something in the Torah, for example, then you follow those rules, even if you think better, not for yourself, even if you think that for the army, it will be better that if I do something different, there's no such thing as going. Now take these 3 concepts and put them into the life of a child. I'm not whether the child will verbalize this and actually say this, or whether the child will think this and it's cooking inside of them. How many children, when they get a command from their mother or their father, is their response, why should I? Again, verbally, or they're thinking it subconsciously, or even if it's not, why should I do it altogether? It's why should I do it immediately? I'll do it in 5. We'll do it when I'm ready to do it. And the second element of us doing things when we're in the mood and not doing things when we're not in the mood, and again, that to me is my hardest challenge. That consistency. Sometimes I can be really good at doing something, but for a short period of time. And then then I fall through. The challenge of a soldier, that there's no such thing as saying, I'm not in the mood. There's no such thing as, I'm too tired. There's no such thing of saying, it's too much for me now. There's no such thing as, I want to do something else right now. That consistency, that is, I would say, a tremendous challenge that we face. At least I can say for myself. And then the last thing, which is that I know better. Not Chas v'Shalom, I don't want to listen to Mommy. Not Chas v'Shalom, I don't want to listen to Tati. I just think it'll be better if I do things a different way. I didn't want to not listen to you. I wanted to do it a better way. And you uproot those core challenges Why? You're simply a soldier, and soldiers don't act that way. So that was how the Rebbe initiated and started from the letter and the first rally. However, what I think, with all said and done, there's one more element that I want to clarify, which I think is so important to really understand even the first two elements. So we say, Bereshis bara Elokim eis hashamayim ve'eis haaretz. Yes, Hashem created the shamayim and everything inside of it. That's what the eis is for. Everything in the shamayim and the aretz and everything inside of it, including ourselves. Great. And we say Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. God, Hashem is the balabas of the whole world. Great. I know that since kindergarten. What does that mean? Until you identify that you have an enemy, until you connect and realize who your enemy is and how they're impacting your life, sometimes, believe it or not, that enemy you actually think is yourself. And therefore, you don't even see or feel the need to fight, because you don't see the enemy you don't see the enemy as an enemy. You see the enemy as a friend. And when you have that in your life, that you don't connect with the enemy, then the whole idea of being in an army and fighting a war, you're completely missing. Not only are you missing that, but you actually have a complete disconnect with Torah. And this is what, to me, grabbed me more than anything else. I grew up, I learned about Purim. Not only did I learn about Purim, I learned the Chiddush of the Baal Shem Tov, that the Baal Shem Tov tells us, Kol HaKedes and Megillah Mafreya Lo Yotza, that it says in Mishnayos that if somebody reads the Megillah, starting with the last word and going backwards all the way till the first word, you're not Yetzah. And the Baal Shem Tov translates that somebody who reads the Megillah as Mafreya, as a story from history, they're not Yetzah. Because Purim needs to be relevant to today. So not only did I learn the story, I learned what the Baal Shem Tov told us, that there has to be a lesson in our life. But I knew about it. I never connected Haman to be somebody who exists within inside of me. It was, to me, Haman was a man who lived thousands of years ago. I never connected that Haman was actually part of my personality. I definitely never connected Parei as being part of my personality, or Antiochus being part of my personality. So to me, when you're learning about Purim or you're learning about Pesach, it's a nice story. And I even learned B'chol Day V'Day, every day you have to go out of Mitzrayim. But what does it mean practically? What does that mean that you have to go out of your Mitzrayim? What does it mean that before the Yidden became Tzivos Hashem, they were slaves to Parei, and now they became soldiers to Hashem? It's still buzzwords, it's not real. Until you connect that there's a Yetzer Hara who wants you to be his slave. There's like a Parei. Until you connect, there's a Haman who wants you to bow down to him. Until you connect that there's an Antiochus who wants you to learn Torah. It doesn't mind if you learn Torah as long as you're learning an intellectual concept. But you don't connect it with your life. Until you make it a godly thing, and make it godly, that's something that, and it's part of your life, and you're going to do things that don't make any sense, that he doesn't want you to do. And that connection that the Rebbe wants with Tzivos Hashem, that the children are not looking at Torah as history, but they look at it as the story of their life. They can see Haman inside of them, to making sure that we bow down to him. Haman comes as Purim now, so Haman comes as focus on that one. Haman comes along and says, looks at Mordechai who's not bound down to him, he's going crazy. He says, look what's bothering him is Yesh and Am Echad, that there's a nation, and what does this nation want to do? They want to dress differently, they want to look different, they want to speak different, they want to be different than everybody else. That he couldn't handle. One of the biggest challenges we face with our kids today is that I got to fit in with everybody else. That's the Yesh and Am Echad. That we're taking a fuzim afraid, but we're different. We speak different, we look different, we act differently, everything's different. And unless you can see this in your life where you have a situation where you're faced with a challenge and the Yetzer Hara is trying to get you to bow down to him, to say, I want you to behave in this way, then the story of Purim is the mafreya. Then the story of Pesach is the mafreya. Then Chanukah is the mafreya. We're not connecting with the story, with Torah is not our life. So is Tzivos Hashem a kids program? Is Tzivos Hashem a motivational system for kids? Absolutely not. Tzivos Hashem is an army that Hashem established, taking us out of Mitzrayim and saying, you're no longer slaves to Paray. Now you're my soldiers with a mission to get the whole world to recognize that I'm in charge. That I created the world, and the world should behave the way the Eibishter wants. How? By being an incredible role model. So Tzivos Hashem is not only is it not for kids, wasn't made for kids, besides for Shevet Levi, every single other Shevet had a situation where they were only part of Tzivos Hashem when they were men from 20 to 60. Girls? No, who would ever think of a girl being part of an army? The only time when it's different is Shevet Levi, and for the girls, when it says even a kala b'yem chupasa, if it's a mochemes mitzvah, then even a kala on the day of a wedding, imagine a kala on the day of the wedding, you're going to drop everything and going to war. Why? It's a mochemes mitzvah. So the Rebbe says now, according to all signs in Masechta Seita, we are now in what's called Ikfas of the Mashiach, it's the end of Galus. And now we need to have the greatest battle of ever to actually finish off Galus and bring Mashiach. And to do that, he needs more soldiers in the army. So therefore, the Rebbe says, I'm reaching out to children. Why? Why am I reaching out to the kids? But he says to the children, because like every army, when they have a special mission, they call new reserves into the army. If you have a special mission, you call in new reserves. We need more soldiers, I'm calling more reserves. And specifically the children, because there is nobody, there is no soldiers like the kids, for two reasons. David HaMelech says in Tilim, it's specifically the children. I'm fine, but thank you so much. It's specifically the children who have the ability to give the Hashem the strength to overpower the enemy like no one else has. That's number one. And number two, second of all, children are the best soldiers because they have nothing else in their mind. No mortgages, no other financial challenges, no other issues like that. Therefore, they can focus all their efforts and all their energy to being amazing soldiers. And the Rebbe says, just like Shevet Levi, they started from when they were 30 days old, or according to some opinions, from when they were born, according to some opinions, even when they were in their mother's stomach. So the Rebbe says, so to Kol Misha Nadav Ruchai, anyone that wants to volunteer could be part of Hashem's army even when you're a child. So I'm asking children, this is what the Rebbe says, to volunteer their services to join Hashem's army and become his soldiers. And what we're looking for is not to give out mission sheets. We're looking for our children to understand that Hashem needs them as his soldiers. And I'm going to finish off with one more little part of this first part of the presentation, and then we're going to get into the practical stuff, just to tell you something mind-boggling based on the second rally. And what we've done this year to show you that when you show kids, and we've never told this to the kids yet, by the next rally we'll tell it to them, the impact that they've had in the world, it's mind-boggling. By the second rally, the Rebbe explained to the children how the divisions of Hashem's army works. He says that this, in the Midbar, there was the Mishkan in the middle, and then there was 4 divisions in Tzivos Hashem. One division was on Mizrach, one on Ma'ariv, one Safan, and one of Dan. And the Rebbe says each of those divisions had what you call division heads. Avraham and Sarah on the south, Yitzchak and Rivka on the north, Yaakov and Leah, Yaakov and Leah were buried together in the Maris Machpelah. And then you have, then you have David and Rachel. Rachel was buried in the same city as David was. And in the Sikha, normally rallies were never edited by the Rebbe, were never mugged by the Rebbe. This is a Sikha that the Rebbe was Magia. And in the Marimakim, in the sources at the bottom, the Rebbe explained further that in the Merkava, in Shemayim, Hashem's throne in Shemayim, these 8 tzaddikim are on either side, on 4 sides of the throne. Avraham and Sarah again on the south, Yitzchak and Rivka in the north, Yaakov and Leah, and David and Rachel. The Rebbe also explains Al Pi Kabbalah, how they connected, etc. Then the Rebbe told us that if you follow, there should be a theme each month, and if you follow in the Maisim Tovim of these things, then our mission is of Haras to Yama Vakema Svein of Anegba, to conquer all 4 directions of the world. And by you following in their footsteps, we will conquer the 4 directions of the world. Before we start, we launched this Sikha, Chav Cheshvan by the rally. When we launched this Sikha of a grandmother who lives in Eretz Yisrael, right on the border of Gaza, and we speak to her often, before the Sikha there was bombs coming over constantly from Gaza into Eretz Yisrael, in the south. We launched the Sikha on Chav Cheshvan, and we started to implement this monthly theme of following the footsteps of Avraham and Sarah. Eretz Yisrael put together an army of 75,000 troops onto the border of Gaza. They sent planes over Gaza and dropped bombs, and before long, those bombs have stopped, and they have not, and the place is quiet. Spoke to her this last week, and it's quiet. That was mind-boggling. We were so excited when we saw that we actually 30 years later implemented what the Rebbe said and what an impact it made. We were so excited. And then 2 months later, we moved on to Yitzchak and Rivka. And as we did, suddenly we go on to the news. And what does it say? They represent the north. And there, planes fly over Eretz Yisrael, over Syria, and they knock out the bombs that they would officially going to be transporting to Lebanon in the north. When children understand and realize the power that they have, and realize that the world is depending on them, and they are the ones that can really bring Mashiach, but they really need to buy into this, and not saying, yes, today I'll do it, tomorrow I won't do it. It's not about the points you're going to get. It's not about the medals you're going to get, about going up in rank. Those things are really amazing, but that's all about the prizes you'll win. It's not about that. We need you to bring Mashiach. And we need you to be a strong soldier. That not today you did it and tomorrow you didn't do it. We need you to constantly be there. And it's not about the mission sheets. Between me and you, if I had a mission sheet in my hand, the first thing I would do was rip it up. And now I want to move on to the practical side. And I want you to understand that the mission sheets that you have, which most of you people think that the mission sheet is the core point of Tzivos Hashem, you can take them and rip them up, really. Think about it when you go shopping. What do? You go to the store. This is actually, I got an email from one of the teachers in one of the schools that I went to who gave me this mashal. Unbelievable idea that can really help you understand. Now we're getting to the practical side of things, what this is all about. Look at the mission sheets that you have. I believe you got them on your way in. You should have mission sheets for your kids. Those mission sheets, the way you should be looking at those mission sheets is the same way when you go shopping. What happens when you go shopping? You fill up your cart, lots of stuff. Then you go to the cashier and you pay for it. What did they give you? A receipt. What do you do with that receipt? Some of you might put it into your wallet, some of them will stuff in your pocket, and some of you will throw it in the garbage. That's what your mission sheets are. You think the mission sheets are Tzivos Hashem? They're just a receipt. That's not the mission. That's not what Tzivos Hashem is about. Tzivos Hashem is not Oh, so the teacher who wrote me this email said, I thought that as long as as a teacher, as long as I give out my missions to the kids, and as long as I collect them back, or as a parent, as long as I sign my sheet that my kids filled out, I'm being a good commander. The idea is to understand that as parents, when we're the commanders of our soldiers, the mission sheet is only the receipt of what you did. The first question is, what is the system of discipline that we're putting in place? What do we expect of our children, and have the children bought into that system of discipline? If we haven't done that with our kids, if we haven't sat down with them, and we haven't got our kids to buy into being soldiers, and that's what the Hachayil is there for, which we'll get to in a second, then you can't expect. Again, I can tell you, we sat down with the teachers. One of their biggest challenges is they know that some of the kids are just checking it off and bringing it back to school, and a parent will even sign it without looking at the paper. They have no idea if the kid did it, the kid didn't do it. Okay, I gotta get to school. I'm gonna miss the bus. I'm gonna miss the car ride. Just take it. Go. This is not what it's about. For that, you didn't have to come here. Stay at home. Let your kid fill it out. After a whole week, when he or she has no recollection what happened the previous week, you just check it all up and bring it back to school. Mommy signed it. Daddy signed it. That won't work. What does work? What do we need to do? What we need to do is, we need to be able to establish that the mission sheet, like I said, could be a simple receipt. That means that the elements on those mission sheets that are there become standard practical procedures that happens in the house. Last night, when Shalom Bear was sent into bed and it was already late, it was past his bedtime, he sat there screaming, "Mommy, Mommy, Mommy." And my wife responded to him several times, "No talking now, it's bed. You're supposed to be in bed a long time ago, you're late, go into bed. No talking, no discussions." So I walked by the room, I said, "Shalom Bear, what's the matter?" And he burst into tears and he said, "I don't have negavas." Because he knows you don't get out of bed in the morning without washing negavas. And it's on his missions. He might not even check it off that night, which is a problem, because that's part of what we need to train the children getting used to doing. But he knows these things are something that he's not going to miss. It's not one day yes, one day not. So what I want to do is I want to take a minute to go through the mission sheets with you. Okay? And I want you to understand these mission sheets, because this is what you want to make happen in your house. You want to make these what we call standard procedures, something that all your kids... Now, there is one challenge, and I want to preempt that before we go through the details. The challenge is that it could be there's too much on your mission sheet for your kid to really take on. In that case, you're the commander. You tell them, well, right now we're going to work on this. You're their commanders. You can say to them, right now, it's okay if you didn't say do exactly this way, it's okay. You're their commander. Hashem put you in charge, not me. So the mission sheet is a guide. Really and truthfully, we're working on redeveloping the system that you should be able to even modify the missions for each individual task, for each individual child. Because if that's what needs to be done, 100%. So let's go through the mission sheets now and be practical and see of those mission sheets. Mandy, can I trouble you for one?
Sure, yeah, you're going to go through, besides for going through the mission sheet, just some of the logistics of how to go online and how to scan and things of that, and how to make sure, because that's, that's the thing that I promised my kid I'd come back with a better understanding, which
yes.
I have to leave soon, and I want to see if we can...
So do you want me to do that first?
Okay. I don't want to speak for everyone here, just some of the...
So I can...
the practical implementation of this.
Okay. Absolutely. So, well, let me, thank you very much. Okay. Let's stay focused for a moment with regards to parents. First of all, I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and we'll get back to this in another 2 minutes. Okay? First of all, anyone here that does not have a parent account, that means to say, an ability to log in, to be able to have an account. First of all, if you don't have internet at home, like I don't, Baruch Hashem, Tavala Bracha, respected a lot, and then this does not apply to you, unless you can do it from work. But if this is referring to people that do have internet at home, and if you do, and you want to have a parent's account, all you need to do is let Mendy know. I'm speaking about Rabbi Mendy Paul, and probably I would say this, without any guzma, has transformed Tzivos Hashem last year. It was nowhere near the way it's working this year in the school. Really, really done an incredible job of making things work, and it's really due to a tremendous amount of dedication, which is day and night, incredible hours that he puts into it. But at the same time, yeah, he deserves a big one. I tell you that anyone that does not have a parent's account, all you need to do is reach out to Mendy. He will set it up for you. And when you have this parent account, it's incredibly simple. When you go on there, you click on Child Management, and under there is actually this last week it became even more easy to use, because if you have multiple children now, you can just click on all the children that you want to print out missions for. Let's say your kid lost their missions in school, for example. You simply go onto the site, go to print missions. If you want to do for multiple weeks, there's also a way that you can print missions for multiple weeks.
You don't have to print, you can just do it right online.
If you want to fill out the missions online,
just go to Mark Missions. Go to Mark Missions, and the same exact paper that you have over here, you'll be able to mark everything. Now, what I want to suggest is, don't do this at the end of the week. This is...
You don't have to bring it into school, you just do it there, and it'll be...
The mile of you bringing it into school, even if you filled it out, is that the teacher is able to see what they've done and can be on top of it. That's the mile of it.
And it's not give out.
Sorry?
And it's stickers and card cards.
And there's a bacher in the boys' schools that go through the children's mission sheets with their kids to see what they've done or where they need areas of improvement. So it's important to understand that, yes, if you do it at home...
Sometimes the papers just fill up the backpacks and they come back and forth for a whole week.
So then that's something that I came in today to have 3 meetings. I met with the teachers to where areas we can improve with the teachers, because they, besides having the magazine, we make every month teachers' guides to go together with the magazine for them to be able to use in their classroom, which has not been happening till now. So that was the first meeting. The meeting with you is to be able to be on top of the missions in your house.
So just walk through the process, let's say a week. What would be a perfect week in terms of stickers and charge cards and everything?
Before you even get to the week, the first thing you need to do is get your children to buy into this. That's number 1. Number 2, the next step is, on a daily basis, we do it in our house after supper. Supper's over, then we do missions, because it's perfect time.
How many kids are involved in your house in Tzivos Hashem? How long does this process take?
It's the 6 kids.
Okay.
And the process doesn't take so long. I would say within about 5 to 10 minutes max.
You do everything.
Yeah. It's very simple. That daily... Look at your daily checklist.
So then at the end of the week, so you finish...
So every single day, you're checking off what you did that day.
Good.
What's more important, and this is what I want you to take on your pages, you have the Achal magazine. Okay? I'm not even talking about right now, because some people feel like they're in a rush. I want you to take the smaller one, not the monthly one, the thin one, because in the thick one you also have the thin ones included. I'm going to only look right now, go through what's called over here on the second page of your missions during the Shabbos meal. This is a very important element, especially Tati's listen very carefully, and this is very important during the Shabbos meal.
This in the second page of
your missions.
I don't see it.
It's called during your Shabbos meal.
During the Shabbos meal.
Do you see it?
Maybe not this one.
During the Shabbos meal. Okay? So during the Shabbos meal, this is very important. it says, I told over or heard a sikha of the Rebbe by the Shabbos table. Now what we want to do is, we want to make the sikhas of the Rebbe relevant to the children, taking the sikhas from the Rebbe Ratzer Kinder, and what we try to make it is in a very fun, kiddie way. Now, this is where it comes in the benefit of having a lot of kids in the program. Here is what we call the Parsha Fire. In order to make this exciting and fun for the kids to look forward to, every Shabbos you want to delegate this 5 responsibilities here. There's one person who's Chani, one's Rivki. This week there's always a guest, Aaron Akayin, Yitzi, and Sruli. Okay? You want to be able to have 5 people by the table who are participating in the Parsha Fire. So one person will be Rivki, one person will be Chani, the next person will be Sruli, the next person will be Yitzi, and the next person will be Aaron Akai. And as a family, each one will say the part for those things.
So you pass it around, or each one has their own?
Well, again, depends how many kids you have. The more kids you have, the easier it is to do. Sometimes if you only have 3, let's say, you could pass it around. And if you only have 3 kids, then you can put Chani and Rivki together to share, and Sruli and Yitzi together, and Aaron together, or you can pass it around. But it really involves the whole family, and the kids get excited and look forward to this every single week. What I actually do in my family is I've delegated responsibilities that Mushki is in charge of the Parsha Fire, Mendel's responsible for the story and the Niggin, Levi is responsible for the Yemei Chabad page, and Sivi takes care of this page. So between the 4 oldest kids, they're all responsible to say part of that. Besides, Mushki usually gives out the Parsha Fire to the guests or the other people around the table, so that everybody gets involved in it. But it really takes up the central part of the thing. So this way you're telling the kid to say a mission or say a story by the Shabbos table, but where they're supposed to get a story from? They have the story to say over here. There's a niggin of the week. So you can take the time to explain what the niggin of the week, the background of the niggin, and then sing the niggin of the week. Oh, what special Yom of the Paga is going to be coming up this week? It's always the Yom of the Paga that's going to be in a week to come. Discuss what that's going to be. Then, what's the special message for the Parsha? And then say it over. But don't stop there. Remember, we're an army and you're training soldiers. Ask them, how could you connect? What could you do as a Ma'aseh B'Payel from this Sikha? What does it mean to you in your life? Get them used to, train them to connect with what they're learning and say, how can I implement this in Ma'aseh B'Payel? And last but not least, at the back page, this is the Ma'asim Taivim that we learned from the Avos and the Imais. And again, we're going to discuss what last week's, if you look in Parshas Terumah, the big thick one, it started off the story of the Akedah, of how Yisra goes to the Akedah, and it's going to be a theme about Kabbalas El, and it's an opportunity to bring with your kids about Kabbalas El. So, this is your, so to speak, springboard for being able to do those missions. And if you look back at during the weeks, I told of a story, a sikha, that's the Parsha Fire. I said Harachman in benching. When you say Harachman, we all say Harachman for the Rebbe. I told of a story of the Rebbe. During the week, we have that here. I explained the niggin of the week and we sang it. I have that here. And I sang this week niggin by the Shabbos table. Now, I want you to understand there's the next element that's important to understand on the mission sheets, is that you'll see that next to every single task, there is an icon. The reason why that icon is there is because the same way that you would never mix up in school, that Chumash, Gemara, math, Lahavdil marks, because you want to know where they're holding in each area of their life, so too also, all the different things on the mission sheet, some of them are to enhance your iskashus. Some of them are to enhance your Tanya Balpeh. Some of them are to enhance the way you wake up in the morning, go to sleep at night. So we've divided each area. In the mission sheet, it shows the way it applies during the week. But you can see from the tasks on the side, which, what we call, instead of subjects, we call them in the army campaigns, they're connected to. Now what's important to do is, if you look next to these tasks, some of them have stars next to them. Those are the tasks that are the most important ones to focus on with your kids. Because those tasks are what they get their stickers for. And those stickers, when they get enough stickers, they go up and they get medals. And I'm going to show you very, very quickly. I'll give you one example over here. For example, let's say there's one of the tasks for Yom Tovim. So the mission is for them to celebrate all the Yom Tovim properly. And we want them to have Kabbalah Sel. So listen to the system of discipline for Kabbalah Sel for Yom Tovim. In school, from when they start, in the 7-year program. This is for 7 years. If you start in the first year of school, in first grade, pre-1A I should say, then there's 685 missions that you can do in those 7 years. And if you want to get all the medals for Yantif, you've got to do every single one. Can't miss out one. What happens is, every single time they do a Yantif mission, again, it's specifically the tasks that have a star next to them, they get a sticker that goes there. After they get 10 stickers, they get the white Yantif medal. If they do 15 more stickers, they get the red Yantif medal. See, the Yantif medal has a special medal that has the Yantif logos on it. And so on and so forth. To get the orange one, they have to do 30 more.
And this is monitored here at the school when you put your paper?
When you put either in school when you put the paper, or when you enter it online, the system calculates all of that for you. And then by the rallies, they're actually handed, this is their badge of honor for keeping up to this milestone. They get their medals by the rally. Then, what happens is, after they get a certain amount of medals, 3 medals, then they go into their rank books, and that they go up and they get promoted in rank. They get 4 more medals, they get promoted to the next rank. They get 5 more medals, they get promoted to the next rank. So the kids who have become generals now in Tzivos Hashem have actually earned 53 medals from the different campaigns. But there are, like I just said before, Yantif is kept separately from all other missions. There's another mission, for example, Shabbos Mevarchim Tilim, to say your Tilim on Shabbos Mevarchim. We're going to keep that separate. If the kid, there's 95 opportunities in their school life to say Tehillim. If they do all of them, they'll get all the medals. If they do the first 5, they get the white. Next 6, they get the red. They all have these books in school.
Could you talk a little about the charge card?
Oh,
that is
excellent. The next thing we'll discuss is the charge card. On your missions, there's so many different missions that they have to do constantly. And first of all, it becomes monotonous. Same thing over and over again. And number 1. And number 2, the second thing is, we want to have an opportunity to really focus on one, if we would call it charge up, on one mission at least once a year. So what we do is, every month there's one mission that we take from the mission sheet, and we focus on that mission for that month. For example, let's say the mission of the month would be Maida'ani. So if you did the Maida'ani, it's a daily mission. So the way the daily missions work is to get the sticker. Or if it's a charge card on the daily mission, you have to do it at least 5 out of 7 times. So if the charge card icon is on Maida'ani, then you need to say Maida'ani 5 out of 7 times the way it says it on your mission sheet. Because for different grades it says it differently. If you do it 5 out of 7 times, you get the charge card that week. This month, for example, the charge card, the way it's going to work is the focus is going to be learning Tanya Baal Peh. So every single child will get a quota for Tanya Baal Peh. And if they do their quota, it could be a quarter of a line a week, which is 2 words. Or it could be 20 lines a week, depending on the child. It's personalized.
How do you know which one is it?
So on the mission sheet, you'll see, for example, on this thing over here, it says, I made the proper brachas before and after I ate, and cleaned up after myself by going to sleep. There's an actual little logo next to it on the papers there.
So that's the thing?
Where is it?
Yeah. On page 1, it's...
It's that icon over there?
Right.
Going to sleep like a child?
Right.
Second one?
Yes, the end
So
of the thing.
you do that 5 out of 7 times.
So you do that 5 out of 7 times, then you get that card. Now those cards are what they are. I didn't actually bring any samples with me, but those cards, what they are really Just same thing they get in school the whole time, which are called achievement cards. And achievement cards basically are just cards which have a barcode on them, which gives them points. So what happens is that the teachers, if their teachers feel that being good in class or the different mitzvahs that they're doing in school, they give out these cards as sense of an achievement what they've done. And they all have their own cards which have with their picture on it and a barcode, and they're able to go into the ATM machine and they have in school, scan their card, and then their account comes up, and then when they scan in these achievement cards, they get these points added to their account.
So they need their card that they always have.
That's like their
What's
credit
that called?
card.
Is there a name for that?
Their
card?
rank card.
Their rank card. So they put that in, and then if they have other cards,
Then they can scan in those other cards, and that adds points to their account. Oh. 1 second. So that now what's special about the charge cards is they comes with a silver lining over the barcode. They have to scratch it off, and that barcode could be worth 1 point, but it could also be worth up to 500 points. It's like a lottery ticket.
So they get it for doing. Their teacher gives it to them.
So the regular achievement cards, which have points, they get for different things which have established in school. If they do these things, then they get achievement cards. The charge cards,
They have to scan.
they have to scan those in order for it to go into their account.
And you can only scan it in the machine.
You can scan it. You can scan it again in the machine in school, or if you want to do it at home, when you log into the parents' account, there's a button underneath where it says to go to kiosk, under their name, go to kiosk, and then you can actually do it at home. You can type in the numbers, things, unless you want to get a scanner.
Number.
Yeah, unless you want to get a scanner, then you don't have to type them in, and you can do that at home. So that's with regards to that. Now these points, the reason why we made these points for the children is because, as you see, they have to do a lot of missions to earn a medal. And a lot of medals to go up in rank. It's really a long-term system. And a lot of times, children need what we call instant gratification. So we've made this system, and every single month we have a raffle with about $5,000 worth of prizes. Every single school wins a prize every month. And there's some unbelievable prizes. Your kids will tell you about them. Really, really amazing prizes. And also, I believe for the boys also, they've started a store as well. But not only they can use their points to be able to go into a raffle, but on their kiosk account, there's actually prizes that they can buy. Which means...
Nothing to do with these mission sheets.
No, it has everything to do with them, because besides for the achievement cards that they're getting and their charge cards, every single check that goes in they do on their mission sheet also gives them points.
Right, so I have a problem with those cards because they're motivating my son very much, but he's not so motivated.
But if he knew that he was getting points for everything he does on the mission sheet, then he'll be motivated for that as well. So that's a very important point that you just brought up, because I wasn't clear about that, and you've helped me clarify that every single thing that you do, remember, the only things that you're getting medals for is the things that have the stars next to them. Even though we move them around a lot, so we try and cover a lot of different areas, but it's still a limited amount of things. But the reality is, we want to give them credit for everything they're doing, so everything they fill on their mission sheet, they get points for.
So just go back to there's two ways. This one is they get 5 out of 7. For this one, they get a charge card.
Right.
And the other way is that their teacher decides.
No, that's not for a charge card. Those are called achievement cards.
And what do you do with them?
The same thing. Scan them in.
And you get
points. But on those things, it says straight out. You got 1 point, 5 points, 3 points, 15 points.
On this one, it could be one.
This is like more like a lottery.
And then when you get points, what do you do with the?
Again, there's 2 things you can do with your points. Number 1, there's a raffle every month, which you don't do anything for it. It just uses your points. Depending on how many points you have, the more chances you have in the raffle.
Will you use it up? The points?
No, they do not go away. You don't lose up your points by being in the raffle.
And the other thing that they can do with their points?
By the store, then you use up your points. But you use it up in the store. It doesn't mean that they're not going away.
And that's here in the Cheder, in the girls,
in the
and
store.
the boys?
Yeah, and both. And you also have I don't know if the girls have the store. I know the boys do.
So what do the girls do to you?
But that is with regards to that. The other thing that I want to make sure that it's clear is at the end of the year, there's the raffle, there's only 50 prizes a month that we put out. But at the end of the year, there's a raffle, there's an auction, like a Chinese auction, where they can actually buy, which is on the kiosk now as well, that you can buy tickets for prizes in the auction. And actually, my grandfather was very kind enough to give me, he has got a £1 note from the Rebbe, and that's one of the prizes in the end of the year auction. So there's amazing prizes that the kids can also, in the end of the year, buy tickets for with their prizes. So again, I think that it was a very good suggestion, Rabbi Kornfeld, not actually going through all the different details in the mission sheets, because really and truthfully, that's something that everybody can do on their own. Go through the mission sheet, make sure you have a clear picture of what those things are. I also really appreciated the different questions and suggestions that have been brought up. And if there's anything more, I think we should focus on that. Yes.
Very quick.
Good.
But the prizes, who buys those prizes?
Depends. The raffle prizes we buy,
The other prizes.
and the ones in the store, that the school take care of.
That's
Yeah.
no, because some people
Right, so if it's something in the store, then that's from the store. Is there any other questions before we wrap it up?
If the charge card is not working, what does that mean?
Again, I don't know. Shouldn't happen. If there's a problem like that, then you make sure that you send a note back to say that we tried to do it, didn't work, and you get a new one instead. Or I wanted to point out there's something also exciting about the charge cards. The back of the charge cards is a picture. And when you get this all together, 45 different pictures that make up 5 different puzzles. So basically when the kid gets a full puzzle, which has 9 pictures in, they also get a special bonus charge card as well. So it's another thing to keep them busy and motivated. Yes?
In your experience, have you seen children transformed when it's, because the idea is unbelievable.
The answer is like this. It's all about how strong the system of discipline put in place. For example, in Cheder Lubavitch, New Jersey, they have a way of learning Tani Baal Peh. It's a school in the same county, and they sit in there, and every kid that finishes school learns 12 brakim Tani Baal Peh.
Same state.
Same state, sorry. Of New Jersey.
when they have to do it.
Sorry?
I think it's down by Mercer.
Every single...
Yeah.
They're supposed to like
It depends. If you're not on top of it, if you sign your mission sheet without the kid doing it, if the kid's not in bed on time, you still check it off.
Never.
The whole thing's a joke. It's meaningless. You'll never get anything. If the kid knows you're serious, and every night you check off your mission sheets, and you only check off the kids in bed on time, and there's been times where they were in bed and then they came out of bed, crossed it off. If you're running an army base, it's very different than running a regular house. It really depends. But if you're running an army base and your kid's not on board, it's not going to work. So you have to remember the key connection over here. You're running an army base, but your kid has to buy into it before you start. And there's a lot of motivation, there's a lot of incentives. Sometimes we feel it's a bit of an overkill of the incentives that we have to make sure they'll buy into it. But at the same time, whether it's a solid system of discipline or not, that's up to the commanders.
Tzivos Hashem offer you can rent maybe managers of the house. I'm saying.
I don't mean to be rude, but I totally understand what you're saying, relate to it very well, and I actually foster a girl in our house, and she takes care of it, a lot of that stuff in our house for us.
Oh.
100%.
Yeah.
It's management. What you said just now, the word management, is exactly what it is. People want their house. One of the biggest complaints we get from parents is, you really want me to be on top of my kids. I don't have the time for that. You want me to sit and learn with every single kid. You know what it means? You have to sit and learn with every single kid every single week for 10 to 20 minutes depending on their age. You know how much time that is? To sit and learn with those kids? It's a lot of time. But if you don't have that system of discipline in place, I had times where who knows how many weeks went by or months went by, and not every kid even got those 15 minutes of attention a week. So these things that are there are very important to be able to establish, if it's Avos Abanim, you want to establish that every week, okay, this is going to be, I'm going to do this Shabbos afternoon. I know this is your time when it's going to happen. Shabbos afternoon is when you're going to learn with Tati. And maybe sometimes when there's a bigger family, divide up the younger kids, will do their homework, whatever it is, / learning with Mami, and the older kids will learn with Tati, whatever, however you decide to do it. But if you do...
Is the Chayal available online in case...
Sorry?
Is the Chayal available online in case it gets lost or not?
In general, it's not, but Rabbi Paul could give out the parents the link where it is available online. So that's something that we could do, yes. And truthfully, we could even put it onto the parents' account, a place to download that. We put it on for the schools. We could do that. That's another great idea. I want to tell you something, and that's what I want to conclude with and finish off. This is now a program, or I should say, this is an army that we've started to recruit and develop over the last 5 years. Baruch Hashem, we started with 1,000 kids, and this year now, Baruch Hashem, up to 5,000 kids. And we've grown a lot over the time period of being that we've had Tzivos Hashem. And by the way, Mitzvah Hashem for Pesach, every single child who signed up to the program will be getting their own beautiful Haggadah, just made especially for these kids. It's actually a very, very clever size because it fits exactly. Pesach is the time you don't have a lot of space on the table, so it's longer, but it works out perfectly to the things. A really beautiful Haggadah based on the Rebbe's Haggadah, but with illustrations and the Pirush HaMilas. It's really, really, really beautiful, gorgeous illustrations that were made, stories, minhagim. So that's something really beautiful that your kids will be bringing home for Pesach. But what I want to say to you is that over what we've done over the last 5 years has really been built on feedback. A lot of things have been changed and been developed totally differently than they were in the beginning, based on feedback. Yes, it's true that I'm one parent, kind of hard with my kids at home, and I see what works and what doesn't work. But it's so important that if you have a comment or a suggestion, people always feel like, we didn't want to say anything. We see you work so hard. We didn't want to say anything because who am I to say something to you after all the work that you put into it? I'm begging you, don't have that thought or those feelings at all. We've literally built everything we have on feedback, and your feedback means the world to us. Baruch Hashem, sometimes we get beautiful feedback from parents to say what an impact it's had. That's also very encouraging for us. At the same time, other things which are challenging for the kids, and we have a list of things still to do based on the feedback that we've gotten, but I would say most of the things that we've got feedback up until the beginning of this year have already been implemented. So please don't be shy. If there's anything that we can do to make your lives easier as parents, that's what our mission is to do. So in the Achal, there's an email there. So thank you. Thank you again for coming. Thank you for your input. Thank you, Rabbi Paul. You've really changed Tzivos Hashem in Morristown. It would never be the same without you. Before, because you had an amazing... It's all about whoever's running it, and that's the same thing with the